every youth put on their thinking cap. No more time to laugh. Keep learning the fact. The poor and the man has been brainwashed. Adhering to a heart. The leaders them chat. Just like that, them falling at the trap. But you see, I and I own cheddar with one amount of hard labor. You know, see, I and I own cheddar with one amount of hard labor. So welcome you to Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero. Join us today. You know, we are the new kids on the block, and we encourage you to share our program, Studio Galaxy 473 Confero. And this program is all about the equalizers. We are the equalizers. This morning topic is agriculture. And we have with us here our brother Joshua. Joshua was always an important individual in Christianity and in the realm of things. So we have Joshua with us on agriculture. And we're speaking about the insight into the poultry industry. An insight into the poultry industry. We consume a lot of meat. And it appears that chicken is one of the favorite meat that we consume today. A couple decades ago, the majority of chicken we consume was yard fowl or range birds. But as time changes, so do men. We get sophisticated. So we prefer to import than to produce what we own. But it is dawning on us more and more that if we want to be secure where food is concerned, we must increase our production into poultry. And people have to get protein. And most of the other meat that we consume regularly are expensive. So the poor of the poor will be left without protein if we cannot produce more poultry. And I have Joshua with me today, the right person, to speak about an insight into the poultry industry. Joshua in Tong Long, and is around the poultry industry and continue to advocate and lobby to get the poultry industry moving in the right direction. Welcome, my brother, this Saturday morning on the Galaxy Equalizers.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre, and good morning to everybody in the diaspora and at home. I'm very glad to be here this morning. The last program that we did, I got a lot of criticism from my mother. Apparently, the shirt that I was wearing was stained with Clorox or something and had a lot of bleach mark on it. And they were very upset with me that I could go on the program with such a T-shirt on. So this morning I put on a nice white T-shirt. So
That's a farmer. That's a farmer. Is a Girl Guides at the Boys Scout that have a program, Be Prepared.
Yes.
But when we farmers speak about be prepared, we never think about clothes.
No. No. So today I made an effort to have a nice clean T-shirt on. And although last week my T-shirt was clean, but apparently it was marked up. Yeah. So one of the other things that I was told is that although some people know who I am, not many people hearing me for the first time who would know a little bit about me. Well, I just want to do a little introduction. I've been home now for about 12 years. I've been lucky to travel in different countries, work in different countries. And essentially, my politics really is national development. That is my politics, to make a contribution to the development of Grenada. So I've worked really within the poultry sector for probably about 10 years advocating for that sector. I was the significant writer in terms of the national poultry policy with the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, that policy attracted over 60 million in new investment into the industry, and we're about to see the fruits of that investment shortly. I would say over the next 6 months, but I'll talk further on that later. So that's a little bit into me. I'm at the age where I feel that all the knowledge I have acquired over the years needs to be shared with as many people as possible. So I try to do that through this podcast and generally in life. I'm a sharer. I don't take the view that you have to really belong to a political party to make a contribution. I think all citizens can make a contribution to nation building without necessarily belonging to a political party. Not that there's anything wrong with belonging to a political party. I mean, political parties really shape the agenda, so they're very important. But a lot of people kind of shy away, believing that they can't do anything, they can't influence policy, etc., because they're not part of a party. Without necessarily, um,
We have a playback or something on one of the phones.
yeah. So, I really believe everybody has to step up and make a contribution wherever they can. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I want to tell you a little story before I finish off the introduction. Whilst I've been home, unfortunately or fortunately, I've had 3 heart attacks, and I say to myself, why do I keep recovering from those? The first one that I had, the pain was horrendous. I found myself laying down on the ground coming from St. James trying to get to Grenville. The pain was so excruciating. I had to lie down on the ground, hoping and praying the pain would abate. The first one, I ended up in the hospital for about a week or so, lots of tests, and then I was released. The second one hit me at home. I was at home, and all the symptoms came. And I said to myself with the second one, you know what? I'm not going to no damn hospital. I'm going to die right here if that's what determined. But the coward that I am, I went and take all the preventive medication the hospital had given me. And within 2 hours, it had abated. The third one, I was exercising with family, and one of my family members, a doctor. So I was lucky. I was in their hands, and within 45 minutes, I was in the hospital. The hospital was excellent. Maribo, they hooked me up to all kind of stuff, all kind of injections were given. Eventually, I went to St. George's. I stayed in St. George's for about 2 weeks. Really horrendous experience. There were doctors who were very nice, nurses who were very nice, and there were people who were not so nice in the hospital. I remember eventually when I woke from this pain and slumber, the nurse said to me, Mr. Lewis, it's so nice to see you sitting up, you know. And I thought, what is she talking about? But anyway, I smiled and whatever. Eventually, I had to, I was released, and the doctor, the consultant from Cuba said to me they couldn't do anything. I had to either go in Trinidad or America. Eventually, I went and I got a stent put in terms of my heart, and I've since I've been back, I've been aggressively trying to share as much knowledge as I can, because I have to believe that, I'm being kept alive to do some good things. So I'm trying my best to do as much good as I can. I'm trying my best to alleviate as much poverty as I can. So, I continue to work in agriculture on a voluntary basis, and poultry really is my pet project, because I've been involved in that for about 10 years now. And as I said, I was the significant author in terms of the national policy. So that's a little bit as to who I am.
Yes, and I think you get a little bit of who Joshua is. And Joshua is well aware that the most resourceful people we have in the country is in the cemetery. All the cemeteries are filled with resourceful people.
Yeah.
We also have an attitude in Grenada to cut with suit in the night.
Mm.
You don't want the people you're teaching know how to cut jacket. So you do it in the night, and when they come, they sew it.
Right.
And we are strong on that.
Mm-hmm.
That people must pass on information.
Mm-hmm.
If we have to change the direction this country going, we have to change it.
Yes.
If you don't share what you have, you go dead. There are no question about that.
That's for sure.
And if you share it, you go dead.
That's for sure.
So the best thing to do is to share information.
Mm-hmm.
We have too much people walking around with a lot of talents, but for whatever reason, they are not passing it on. They are not sharing it. So here we are on the poultry industry, and we want to provoke discussion.
Yeah.
And the right man is with me today, Joshua. And you know the role of Joshua when Moses was around. So today we have Joshua.
Right. Thank you. So let me jump into the subject
Insight into poultry.
in terms of the poultry, to give everybody a bit of insight and to get
And just before you go,
their
I forget
views.
to announce the number
Yes.
410 3030. Number is 410 3030.
Yeah.
You could give us a call, you could send your WhatsApp, and we will try our best to read the WhatsApp if you have a question on the WhatsApp. Let's go.
Yeah, and that was one of the criticisms. Some of the people called to tell me that the number wasn't frequent enough. But I need to get the pen out and take it down, and you need to call the number slower.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so yes, so back to the poultry industry. The poultry industry is what's known as a low-lying fruit. Which means that it's not difficult to actually get the poultry industry going. It's an industry where we spend about 30 million EC dollars on imported poultry on average a year. It fluctuates, but on average about 30 million. Now, 30 million, usually if you do that 4 times 30, 60, 120, 150, 108, nearly 200 million, because the basic kind of economics is that you take a number and you multiply it by 6 or 7 times in terms of getting money circulation. So that's what the economists believe. So we could have that about 200 million circulating in our local rural economy if we had that industry here in Grenada. But we don't. What we have is that we actually produce about 6% currently of chicken consumption. At one time, we were up to 10%, and another time, we were up to 14%. But the market in poultry is essentially frozen poultry meat imported from Brazil and the US, a little bit from the UK and other places. I think sometimes we even get from Poland. So that industry has a lot of potential in terms of income, money circulation, etc. But it's not being realized here in Grenada. the people who are cashing in tends to be the importers and the people who are making or producing the chicken abroad. Now, we have to look at what is causing that. Why can't we have an industry in Grenada? And there are many kind of factors, inhibitors that prevent us having that industry. The most significant inhibitor is our custom duties, our taxes on import, to be quite honest. So, for example, if you look at the duties in places like Barbados or Trinidad, Guyana, Barbados duties tends to be about 180%, 182%. And what Barbados does is it says that the first 5% of chicken being imported can come into Barbados at 5% duties. Thereafter, people have to pay 182%. Now, Grenada is slightly different. Grenada duties in terms of chicken coming into Grenada, well, they're flying into Grenada. Actually, we consume a lot of chickens. I mean, the average, the last figures I had was about 140 pounds per person in terms of chicken consumption.
Per annum.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, we have this situation in Grenada where the duties, say, on wings and back and neck is 0%. So you don't pay any duties. I think you might pay VAT or something on those things, but you
No, you
don't.
don't pay VAT on
Okay.
chicken wings,
Mm-hmm.
back and neck,
Mm-hmm.
neck.
Yeah.
You don't pay VAT on that.
Yeah. So what happens in terms of poultry, which we need to all understand, is that the market really is for what's known as the white meat. That's the breast and the wings, and then we have the brown meat, the leg quarters, the back and neck. The legs, the thigh, etc. Those are the brown meat. And though the brown meat sells for a much lower price than the white meat, generally the way the model works is this. Once you've sold your white meat, you've made your profit. Anything else is just extra. So the brown meat, which are sold at a lower price, get shipped to places like Central America and the Caribbean, the Far East, etc. The chicken producers found that there's a market there. And in these parts of the world, it seems that these countries like bony meat. The North Americans or UK, they tend to like meat without too much bone.
You like meat for the knocker's yard.
Yeah. Yeah, so we like bony meat. We like to chew on the bones. I don't see a lot of people chewing on the bones now, but I know it was very annoying watching my sister chewing on chicken bone, growing up. Yeah, so what happens is this brown meat comes into Grenada and other parts of the world, and it's sold below the cost of production because they've already made the money from the breast and the wings. So when this low price chicken comes in, especially back and neck was used for animal feed before they found that we had a market in the Caribbean and the Far East. And back and neck used to be so cheap. I think it's expensive, a little expensive now. So it comes in to Grenada, and the local farmers simply cannot compete with those prices because one, in these countries, they have farming subsidies. So at least 25% of the income, farmers' income in North America, Brazil, etc., comes from government subsidies. No, Grenadian farmers don't really have any subsidies, so they're behind. And in terms of feed, places like Brazil, the feed is so cheap. It's unbelievable. So they could have an industry, and they have the land, etc. So when they're producing birds, they're not producing like 200 or 2,000. They're producing close to 1 million birds. So they have the economies of scale. So, you know, then their meat comes into Grenada. Local farmers can't compete. There was an American senator, I think it was Senator Brock, in the 50s that advised the world, don't produce any food. America can produce the world's food because they had the land and the economies of scale was so much better than small developing countries and other countries that were not mechanized. Now, a country followed that model. Haiti followed that model. And what we saw with Haiti following that model and other kind of things that they were doing, they became economically bankrupt as a country. The unemployment soared. A country that had so much industry had little to no industry because they followed faulty advice, really. Each country has to have employment generation, and poultry generates so much employment if it's done properly. You know, the whole rural economy can be revived. I always think that poultry could become the new banana in Grenada because it's not difficult to get everybody producing poultry who wants to produce. Um, so we've had this situation in Grenada for the past 50 years almost since independence, and we've been spinning top in mud, to use a Grenadian phrase. But it seems there's a new dawn coming. There's a new dawn breaking because since the introduction of the national poultry policy, we've had new investors. We've had a new investor in terms of Montrose with a capacity of producing about 50,000 birds every season.
Montrose will be back.
Yes, Montrose will be back. Let me tell you a little bit about Montrose coming back, as you say. Um, and I read the press release and I'm in contact with people involved in the project. And what they were saying was that they had a trial period. There were issues in terms of working capital, etc. Those things have been resolved, and they're on the brink of coming back. And that really gladdens my heart because they were advocating what we call contract farming. And what that really means is that farmers would generally be given the bird and the feed. The feed is the most expensive killer in poultry production. But as a model, they call it the vertical integration model, whereby the processor will give you the day old chick, they'll give you the feed, you'll grow that bird to 6 weeks or 5 weeks, and then the processor will come and take it back, pay you your money, and they will do the rest. Now, that model really involves a feed mill. The people who were supposed to create the vertical integration model for us was Caribbean Agro, but after so many years they haven't do it. So it looks as though we'll have a kind of hybrid model going on whereby these big processors will either assist in time to come with the feed and also the baby chicks. So poultry production will become very lucrative and very easy as we move forward. Now, I want to share.
Remember, as you point out that model, Jamaica have the Jamaica boilers. I don't know if they have a similar pattern with satellite farmers.
Yeah, it's the
Where they
same model.
provide. I
Yeah,
don't know if Barbados have this model.
yeah, Bobby. All the producers have that model who are significant. That is the model. It's basically the feed mill. So in Jamaica, Jamaica Broilers has its own feed mill, and they have their own contracted farmers. So they have their feed mill. They'll give the feed. They have their own hatchery. They'll give the birds, and they
So that is the kind of model that you're hoping or we looking to have
Well,
here.
that was the kind of model that was agreed by Uncle Gary when the poultry agreement was done, and it was then taken over by the revolutionary people, 1979, and they had hoped that the model will still be introduced. I remember speaking to one of the guys from the revolution and saying to them, "How could you guys, allow such a bad agreement to be bestowed on Grenada?" And what he said to me, he was the Minister of Finance at the time, is that everything had been given away to this company. We were just trying to roll back and crawl back something for Grenadians. So what they put in was the price control mechanism, which meant that the price of feed could not be more than 20% in terms of profit that was being made on the feed. And that would have worked really, really
I think
well.
the company then took advantage of this new breeder individuals come with a revolution, distracted, and the company took advantage of them.
Ah,
And they don't interfere.
well, I think if
It's
you
possible.
no, but I think if you look at most of the agreements, you will see we've had up to today agreements that really are very weak when it comes to giving Grenadian individuals or Grenada as a nation anything. The agreements tend to be one-sided in favor of
Companies.
the companies or people from outside. And the person that I was talking with from the revolution, he came from an economic background, and he was adamant that there had to be a price mechanism to protect the Grenadian farmer, because at the time it was a monopoly that the feed mill.
They still have this monopoly.
No, 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 no. That monopoly went ages ago.
Okay.
It went with the prime minister, who I don't remember his name, but he was supposed to be the king of agriculture. I heard you talk about him in a project before. Brizan, I think his name is.
George Brizan.
George Brizan. But George Brizan, unfortunately or unwittingly, did something that really crippled the poultry industry as a whole. What he did was that in order to join the OECS, Caribbean Agro had to be asked to give up the monopoly so that Grenada could join the OECS. So he agreed with Caribbean Agro that the price control mechanism will be disbanded. Caribbean Agro will have a further 15 years of concessions so that Grenada could join the OECS. And since then, if you plot prices from the feed mill, since that has happened, prices you'd see are no longer really feasible, because the profiteering that is made from the feed and the flour by that company, I really believe it's not justifiable. As a previous minister said,
Profit is not justified.
well,
That's what we have companies for, to make profit.
yes, yes, but remember, this is a company that not only there to make profit, but it was there to develop the industry as a whole. That was part of
Over the years, why government insists to buy shares in the company?
Well, government could buy the
They
company
don't want to take risk.
right out if they wanted. I mean, there was a point. Well, let's get into the proper history then. This is what happened. There was a group of not companies, but individuals who targeted the Caribbean. They wanted to get the concession to build feed mills in terms of the Caribbean. They knew once they got all the concessions, and at the time you had to have a local company to work with you. Um, the local company in Grenada was Huggins. So Huggins and a company called Continental, based in Bermuda and New York. They were the owners. Once they got all the kind of concessions, once they convinced the government that they were a Grenadian company, they immediately sold to Caribbean Agro or ADM, took their profit and run. And thereafter, we've just been struggling because there's not been any oversight in terms of ADM. We've not seen the promise of that industry, livestock industry developing. If anything, we've gone backwards so
Yeah, we
far.
have deteriorated significantly.
Yeah, over the years.
And the companies argue that you don't have livestock, you want us to drop price.
Yeah.
If we could increase the sales, the productivity in the company, that means you must have more livestock, we could drop the price.
Yeah, and that's an argument that's been used over and
Of
over.
course, it's a trick argument.
Yeah, but what we found out, since I've been doing the research and other people have also had the information, is that Caribbean Agro will be selling feed to places like Montserrat and other places, Dominica probably, at $30 a bag and selling it in Grenada close to $50 a bag. And those country, when you're talking about volume, they might have one or two container a year. That's 2,000 bags of feed. And in Grenada, we use, probably 800,000, 900,000 bags of feed. So this whole argument that in order to get prices lower, you have to buy more. Clearly, it's going to be debunked in public because custom will have the records, and that is how foolish these people are.
They're not foolish. We
They,
are.
yeah, well, I don't know, but they are thinking that what they're doing will never be uncovered. The Grenadians people will continue to be hoodwinked and hoodwinked, forever. But nothing lasts forever. Slavery did not last forever, and this situation will
Let me
change.
see. We have a call on the line. Caller coming.
Hello.
Yes, my brother, we getting you clear and welcome.
Great. Listening to the program. I'm wondering whether or not it's not the time for us to declare that agreement null and void since Caribbean Agro have not lived up to the terms of the agreement. Part of the agreement was that they would assist in developing poultry industry in Grenada. That have not materialized. So my question is, why are we continuing to uphold an agreement that, in everyone's opinion, should be declared null and void?
Well, I think many people would agree with you. And I think it's not the time really to beat up on Caribbean Agro or to blame ourselves. I think we have to get back to the table and say, what was the intent of the agreement? And Caribbean Agro themselves in correspondence have agreed that they have not met the intent of the agreement. And I know there is movement behind the scene at the moment to rectify that position, to get back to the table and get that agreement rectified. But they've had close to 50 years of profiteering from the Grenadian people. I was about to say that the previous Minister of Trade wrote to them and said he could buy a pound of flour, pay all the duties on it, transport it to Grenada, and it's still cheaper than the flour that they're producing in Grenada. And he was suggesting this is not, sustainable. This is not something that he could continue happening in Grenada. So we've not monitored well, but you're so right in terms of the agreement. The agreement, if you want to fight, yes, one could reach the conclusion that it should be null and void. And in my opinion, it's null and void because they really have not lived up to it.
Well, even if we didn't declare it null and void, why not just remove the duties on feed and open up the market and then create a situation where Caribbean Agro can challenge if they want. Not only that, but they can assist the Poultry Association
Yeah,
in setting up a feed mill. That in itself would be a strong message to
yeah,
Caribbean Agro.
yeah. Caribbean Agro can't don't have any legal basis to kind of stop any feed coming into anything like that. A lot of people assume that they have a monopoly. That monopoly went out as I was sharing with Mr. Pierre for us to join the OECS. So that's not allowed. Government can actually allow feed to come in if they choose. I know there's one possible impediment, which is that there was an OECS competitive program recently, and certain products, if it's coming in from outside, was higher duties were put on it. But again, government can adjust that if they so choose. But I am also aware that there's a lot of work going on behind the scene at the moment because we're about to have the new farm open in Felix Park. Now that will have a capacity of close to 60,000 birds every 6 weeks, and for them to operate and to be able to compete on a level playing field, I know the legislation and the regulation has to be changed to be consistent with other Caribbean islands
Let
regulations.
me let me just interrupt you a little bit.
No, that's okay.
A few years ago, many years ago, when the WTO was negotiating tariffs for the poultry industry, we said at the time that we did not have an interest in in protecting that industry because we didn't have an industry. As a matter of fact, the WTO had sent um, to all expenses paid for two representatives to come to Uruguay to make representation on behalf by all the other islands, Jamaica, Barbados, the protected industry. But let's take a serious look at the poultry industry and why is it that we need the political will of the political director to make a difference. Now, most of the stuff was the poultry parts were zero rated at the time, and we became a dumping ground for most of the poultry producers. In order to have a viable poultry industry, we need legislation to
Yeah,
increase on the duties
yeah,
on the import.
that's
Now
correct.
we went to we went back to the WTO at a cost of 2 million, and we were able to get WTO to change the boundary on on the poultry tariff. In order for us to seriously look at a viable industry, we're going to have to use that opportunity that was made available to us by the WTO to increase on the boundary on that. But let's look at the political fallout from that. The single women head of household, the average single woman head of household, person earning less than $78,000 a year. They depend heavily on chicken, whether back and neck or wings, as a means of protein to sustain themselves and their families. If we have to seriously make, if we seriously have to have a viable local poultry industry, we have to increase on the tariff of the imported in order for that to survive, which means the cost of chicken will grow up. At a time now where we have a bad economy, it it would and inflation is high, it would raise significantly the cost of the major source of protein for families, and that would cause some hardship. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, if I can respond a little in terms of that, because I've heard that debate and that rationale before. I think you're very knowledgeable in terms of getting an industry, so thank you for all that information. Now, the bound rate was raised to 100% plus the CET rate, which means that with that we could have a rate of about 155% the last time I checked. Now, Oliver Joseph was the gentleman um, who negotiated on behalf of Grenada in terms of that rate as
No, 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 right.
the
It was
civil
not
servant.
right. It was Patrick and
Yeah, Patrick was the political, but in terms of the the administrative work, that was Oliver Joseph, but that was both of them, so it doesn't matter. And essentially, there's agreement that the bound rate has to be put on. There's no doubts about that. There's no argument about that. In terms of the argument that chicken prices are going to go up, the producers, in terms of the major producers, because of the economy of scales, they are confident that that will not happen. The second thing that I think that they also point out to me is this. They say, Josh, look at the cost of beef. Beef is about $12 a pound. No,
12.15.
$12, $15 a pound.
Pork is 12.15.
Yeah.
Mutton is 20.
Yeah. He says, look at chicken. Chicken is $5 a pound, and at times $4 a pound, depending on the parts. And one of the parts that surprised me was chicken foot, because we used to sell chicken foot for about $1.50 a pound. Chicken foot is like $5 a pound now, and there's no meat in it,
Yeah, but the question that we must ask, if you raise the price of chicken now,
Hmm.
when the economy and everything else, would the people in the lowest strata able to get the protein they need?
Yeah, I think prices have been raised in terms of beef and sheep and whatever. And I say to many farmers, well, has grass price gone up? We've moved from $8 to almost $15 now. Has grass price gone up? Has people stopped buying beef? Have they stopped buying pork? You know,
Yes, it, yes, yes, it, yes.
and essentially, one of the argument that was used by the NNP, I don't remember the guy name. He's very nice, but I think he was the last finance minister. He has kind of gray hair. I'm trying to
Boeing.
Boeing. The the international agency, the IMF, advised government that they should put up, some duty on back and neck, and basically, Boeing said no, 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 they can't do that, and it will affect things. Well, that was his view, but back and neck has duty on it in Jamaica. It does not affect anything in terms of demand for back and neck. Putting a 10 cents on back and neck is not going to make a difference.
Let me let
Um,
me let me let me interrupt you there a little bit if you don't mind.
no, no, go ahead.
Um,
It's your program.
no, no. In order for us to have a viable poultry industry, there has to be a bold political decision, and that
Abs-
political decision have to be subsidizing the local industry for at least 10 years in the first instance until we can get our people to increase some production. Because you have two problems there. If you increase on the bond rate, you increase on the bond rate of imported chicken, it would cause severe hardship and inflation on the locals. So the only viable way we can do it, rather than creating more hardship in this difficult time, would be a subsidy. Now we have a CBI program that we're bringing in billions of dollars. We see
At least 1
we
billion.
have not, but we have not targeted any part of our rural economy for resuscitation.
You're,
And the poultry industry is a good way to start. And
you're a man
we can
from my
start
heart.
we can start one by encouraging every household to grow a few birds. We can subsidize on the materials, and we can have a national feed. We can have a hatchery.
Hmm.
That could be the form of the subsidy. We didn't really want to drop it at the port. We can encourage homeowners, make it attractive for homeowners. If we could get 1,500 homes to grow an animal for 300 birds per year, and you times that 300 birds, an average growth weight of 3.5, 4 pounds. You times that 15. That's a significant amount of meat we can grow here.
But
That would cut down.
but also money circulation in the rural economy.
Well, naturally, that would do that. And we do have some facilities here. We have some receiving stations that we could use as processing, where could develop a local industry. If we encourage homeowners to grow at least a minimum 300 birds per year, that where they can get the feed, they can get the chicks from the subsidized outfit, and I have a processor where they drop off the birds, they collect a check, and they pick up the chicks and get some feed and all that subsidized cost, and we could develop an industry, but it takes political will.
Yes, my brother,
And
just as how it takes political will, time is a factor. It takes political will, it takes a lot of discussion by us, and to continue to lobby on what should be done. Just as how pointers, we're making pointers and suggestions here. But we're coming to the end of our program, brother, and we're glad to have you. And we will continue on the program, and anytime you're in town, you know you're welcome.
Can I just say your contribution is greatly appreciated. The model that you're talking about is workable, and if I hadn't talked about the major investors and the major poultry processors who are here, I want you to know we have major, significant kind of investors in town, local investors. We have a hatchery capable of producing as much as probably 100,000 birds every 3 weeks. That hatchery is alive, kicking. It's been commissioned, and it's in Felix Park. The industry in Grenada, whether anybody have been stopping it or not, it's about to explode.
wow.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad to hear about that hatchery, because as we speak, I do have a hatchery that's on its way.
Oh,
Eh,
yeah,
not as much as 100,000. I think we can do a 10,000
yeah. We
in every
yeah.
3 weeks. Every 3 weeks. I don't know if I would obtain concessions on that, because
Yes, my
I
brother,
don't know what it is.
we come to the end of the
Hello.
program. Sorry, we have to end the program today. We thank you very much, and you know you're always welcome to the Galaxy Equalizers.
Give him the number because he can contact me directly.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The number as we round up, thank you. Yeah. So my brother, we in the final minute, and I give you the opportunity to give the last word in 1 minute.
Yeah. I want poultry farmers to have faith. We had a meeting, live meeting on Thursday, explaining to farmers about the hatchery and its capability. And the first hatch is on the 21st of June. So things are already changing in the poultry industry. The chicken farm at Felix Park is capable of producing 50, 60,000 birds every 6 weeks. Montrose, 50,000 every 6 weeks. So the industry will change whether we like it or not.
Yes, my brother, and we thank you very much. And this is the end of our program today on the Galaxy Equalizers. And the topic was agriculture. In the next 5 minutes, we back with raw politics. Thank you very much.
Oh, you know, big dreams that we are. Oh, what am I making? Yeah. Youth born for greatness. Yeah. So you see, I and I out cheddar with one amount of labor. You know, see, I and I out cheddar with one amount of labor. So till Santa him can stop get all youth from one.